As firefighters and paramedics, we respond to those on the worst days of their lives. And when they're at their worst, we have to be at our best. And to be at our best, we have to have our house in order. I'm running for president of the IAFF because we have to be united. United for the future of this great union, for the future of our jobs, and the future of our families.
It takes a lot to do this job. Grit, sweat, sacrifice, belief in the future. And there's never been a time when firefighters have been needed more. And one firefighter has always answered the call to leadership, Mahlon Mitchell.
We have over 62,000 people here. Right now, they're trying to eliminate our voice. They're trying to desensitize us. They're trying to discredit us, and they're trying to defund us. And we cannot let that happen. I got my dream job when I turned 19 years old, and I never looked back. Firefighting is in my blood. It's in my family's blood. My older brother's a firefighter in Atlanta. My younger brother's a firefighter in St. Paul. One of our mantras is all hands working. Everybody on the scene is doing something to stabilize it, to make the lives of our community just hopefully a little bit better for that time. The future of the IAFF is here. It's time for us to stand up, rise up, and be united. It's time for us to be strong. We can do it together, with all hands working, leaving no one behind as we do as firefighters. Never forget that together we rise.
Mahlon Mitchell for IAFF General President.
All right, good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining our District 613 and 50 Town Hall. My name is Taylor Bullhagen. I'm a staff member for Mahlon's campaign for General President, and we'll be serving as the MC for the call. Now, this is our 6th Town Hall of the campaign. We've had over 700 locals in attendance so far, and we're pleased to see that this event has a high level of participation as well. This campaign is about making sure that every local has access every local across the union has access to their general president and a voice in their union. We're excited to have you on this call tonight. Thank you for making sure you're part of the discussion. Now, a brief overview of the agenda this evening. First, you're going to be getting information on how to register for the convention. Then you'll be hearing from a local president and a state president on why they are supporting Mahlon for general president. After, you will hear from Mahlon and have the chance to ask him questions directly. Now, we will be using the raised hand feature, which I will explain once we get to the questions, but that will allow you to talk directly to Mahlon. You're also welcome to use the chat box. We also have multiple other town halls coming up that you can partake in. Districts 1, 3, and 4 is this Thursday, and we will be having an all-member town hall a week from today. You're welcome to join both of these town halls, and we encourage you to do so, as well as invite other members from your executive board or your local. Now, before we get started, I want to pass along some important information on how to register for a convention. Before we do that, I want to go ahead and put a poll up for everyone to fill out. So if you guys wouldn't mind filling out if you have registered for a convention yet, we'll give everyone about 15, 20 seconds to put their answer in. All right, looks like about 10 more folks. All right, perfect. I think we can cut it off there, Max. All right, so it looks like 76% or 56 people have already registered for the convention, 12% or 9 people have not, and about 9 people are in the process of doing so. So let's get into the next step here, right? So taking part in this convention and casting your vote for your next general president has never been easier, literally. And I'm happy a lot of you have already gone through the process of registering for the convention. For those that happen, or those that have not, there's a couple reasons that this is going to be easier than ever before. First, the registration fee has dropped substantially to only $100 per delegate. Second, all voting is being conducted by mail. And third, the convention is entirely virtual. It's the first convention in IAFF history where pajama bottoms, or frankly nothing, is completely acceptable attire. Now, every vote in this election is going to matter. This is the first opportunity that union membership has had to pick their leader and subsequently the direction of their union in over 30 years. The contrast is clear, and we encourage everyone to take advantage of this opportunity and make your voice heard. Now, we're putting in the chat box our one-pager that gives more information on how to register. And if you have any additional questions, we encourage you to contact the IAFF membership department. They're there to help. Now, before we get started, or as we're getting started here, I actually want to kick it over to Ryan Hintz, who is the president of Green Bay Firefighters Local 141.
Thank you, Taylor. Brothers and sisters, like Taylor said, my name is Ryan Hintz. I'm the president of Green Bay Firefighters Local 141. Sad to announce that, like any show, you got to start out with the bottom before we get to the main act with Mahlon. Trust me, Mahlon's going to knock your socks off, but you got to deal with me for a couple minutes in the meantime. So just a little bit about Mahlon. You know, when we had a pretty bad governor that brought on some anti-labor legislation back in 2011 known as Act 10. Mahlon had only been president of the state firefighters for about 2-3 months at that time. And I can remember sitting out, just like the video showed before, sitting out in the crowd, watching this guy speaking, and I nudged another Green Bay firefighter and said, you know, who's this guy? He's like, oh, it's Mahlon Mitchell. That's your new PFFW president. I attended probably 15 to 20 rallies after that, supporting our brothers and sisters in labor, and Mahlon's going to tell you more about that coming up. But the amount of respect and the drive that Mahlon brought, uniting labor as a whole across the state, is something that I'll never forget. And throughout the years, I've grown to see the type of leader he is. Quite honest, I've probably got a little jealous of the type of leader that he is. You know, and hope someday I can strive to be what, you know, he has become and what he has taught our state throughout the last 9 years of leadership that he's had with us. You know, one thing I can say with Mahlon, big or small, doesn't matter how big your local is or how small you are, everyone gets a vote. Everyone gets a voice in it. And at all times, he's a phone call away. I call Mahlon, I call and ask, you know, hey, I got an issue. Has this happened before? The guy answers every single time, and that's unheard of. I can't even get some of my own members to do that. So quite honestly, it's kind of scary to think about where we would be as a state without him as our leader. If there's one guy that I know that's going to unite us and move us forward, it's Mahlon Mitchell. And quite honestly, he needs to be our next general president. I know tonight you're gonna be able to hear what he has to say, ask your questions. I know he's gonna earn your trust, and I hope he earns your vote in the meantime. With that being said, I'd like to introduce Brian Jeffries. He is the president of Arizona Firefighters. Take it away, Brian.
Thank you, brother. I really appreciate it. I'm so excited to be here with you all tonight. My name is Brian Jeffries, and I'm the president of the Professional Firefighters of Arizona. I've been a union officer in this great IFF for well over 20 years. And I got to tell you, I am so extremely excited to be here with you all, to see you all, and most importantly, to introduce my dear friend, Mahlon, to you all. I can't tell you how excited I am when I received the phone call from Mahlon that he wanted to run to be the next president of this great IFF. I knew instantly that that's who needed our support and needed our backing. Why? Well, first of all, he has the knowledge. He has the knowledge and he has the experience to use that knowledge. Think about what has happened just in a short amount of time during Mahlon's career. Think about taking on one of the most powerful governors to come to the forefront to try to take out the legs of unions with Scott Walker. Think about bringing together what was then a divided state and provincial organization, bringing together all the firefighters in Wisconsin under one badge. And think about a guy who talks about vision that you're going to hear tonight. And when I'm talking about vision, I'm not talking about what's wrong with the IFF. I'm not talking about taking back our union. I'm talking about a guy who's going to give you a perspective of a fresh start and building upon all the amazing things this union has done for you and me, our families and our members, and building upon those things and make it even better for the future. So thanks for letting me join you all and be a part of this. And most of all, I want to introduce you to my dear friend, my brother, Mahlon Mitchell.
Thank you. First of all, good evening, brothers and sisters. I would like to thank Brother Jeffries from Arizona and Brother Hintz from Green Bay, the second greatest football team in the country. And thank you guys both for saying that exactly how I wrote it. We appreciate that. In all seriousness, thank you all for joining us tonight on our, I think it's our 5th or 6th town hall. For those of you that I have not had the pleasure of meeting, my name is Mahlon Mitchell. I'm currently state president of Professional Firefighters Wisconsin. We're a state association, about 4,000 plus members. I'm also president of my local here in Madison, Firefighters Local 311. We're a local about 500 members. We got 400 of those that are in Madison proper, which is our capital city. And we have 100 members that make up our 13 affiliates that we represent. So my team and I, we're bargaining 14 different contracts any given year at any given time. So that keeps us busy. I've been on the job for 24 years here in Madison, our central city. I work right downtown at Station 1 where our local president is housed. I'm a lieutenant, I'm an officer on an engine. I have two brothers that are actually in the fire service as well. My younger brother is up in St. Paul, Minnesota. Not up to you guys, but up to us. And my older brother is down in Atlanta, Georgia. So you can say, and it's true, the fire service runs in my blood and it's in my bloodline. But why am I running for general president of our great union, the International Association of Firefighters? Well, I believe that we do have a great union. We have a great union that is big, bold, and strong. 324,000 members and the best men and women that you can find here, in my opinion, on planet Earth. We've organized 123,000 of those members in just the 21st century, so we're growing. 25,000 members that you represent in Canada, and we keep growing and getting stronger. We're leading the way in so many things by way of our union. We're leading the way in cancer research, in our presumptives, benefits, our SOPs, disaster relief, things I use back home as local president, MFAs, and GIS mapping and studies. Things at the federal level. There's a DROGA Act, taking care of our brothers and sisters that are on the PAL in New York. Our cancer registry, our SAFER Act, and public safety officer benefits, how the IAFF got in front of COVID-19, the pandemic. We've lost 21 members in the line of duty because of COVID-19. And thank God the IAFF was there to make sure that our members get and their families get the public safety officer benefit. So we lead the way in so many things. And I look and I research what you've done in Canada and what you did, and I know it's in 2018, but being able to have a 25-year battle for the PSOC benefits for your members and your families, and the memorial grant, taking care of your members who die in the line of duty, not just for line of duty fighting fires or at calls, but actually occupational illness and occupational cancers. You guys making vaccine a priority in Canada, making sure that not only the emergency healthcare workers get it, but our members in Canada get the benefit as well. You've done a lot of work with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, providing funding for research and PTSD and leading the way when it comes to behavioral health for our members in Canada. That's why I believe, brothers and sisters, and I don't say this lightly, I believe that we are part of the baddest union on the planet and that we are a force, and we've worked on that together. We've turned the IAFF into a powerhouse. You look at our black and gold brand, coveted by so many wannabe elected officials and those that are elected in our two great countries that we serve. You look at the Fight Back program, where the money's coming back to states, provinces, and municipalities so that we can fight back at the local level from all the attacks that we're seeing. And we'll talk about those in a little bit. We have many challenges ahead of us, many challenges that are going to be in front of us. And I believe that we need a leader that's going to unite us, not divide us for his own political ambition. The challenges that I'm speaking of, COVID-19, which we're all dealing with all across the world. Our brothers and sisters are getting cancer at crazy rates every year. Our brothers and sisters looking at taking their own lives because of what we see over time and the cumulative effect of our jobs. We have a lot of challenges that we need to tackle, but we have opportunities as well that we can seize upon. And in my opinion, we need leadership that brings us together to tackle these challenges, but also to seize upon the opportunities that are in front of us. There is more that we can do as an IAFF, and there's more that I want to do as your general president. Ryan alluded to it a little bit. Let me tell you a quick story. In 2011, when I became president, we had an asshole governor, and a lot of you may remember, his name was Governor Scott Walker. He was a lot like the premier that you have in Alberta, Jason Kenney, that essentially came in, and these are his words. He said, I'm going to divide and conquer the unions. I'm going to come after public sector employees first. I'm going to leave police and fire exempt. And then later, I'm going to come with right to work legislation and take care of, these are his words, take care of the private sector unions. And unfortunately, he did exactly that. But what he wasn't expecting when he met with myself and my colleague in the WPPA, which is our State Police Association, he asked us not to be at the rallies. He didn't want to see us at the protests. Matter of fact, he wanted us to write a press release thanking him for our exemption as police and fire. And when we left the building, the Capitol, we had a decision to make. And we not only told the governor no, but we told him hell no, that we would be there with our brothers and sisters in the House of Labor. Nowadays, they call it solidarity. Back then, we just called it the right thing to do. But what a lot of people did not know is that as a state association of professional firefighters of Wisconsin, we were at a crossroads. We had infighting. We had a district vice president from the IAFF that would not talk to my predecessor, state president, at all about anything. Matter of fact, when I became president in 2011, we had 7 to 8 locals that said, Mahlon, nothing against you, brother, but we're going to pull out of state association. We're sick of all the BS at the top. We're sick of paying dues into the IAFF, as well as the state association, and not realizing or seeing any benefit from the state association. I asked those locals, I said, give us 3 years to turn it around. They said, we'll give you 2. So fast forward to today for time's sake. We now have in our state association, every IAFF affiliate that's in our state actually part of the Professional Firefighters of Wisconsin, including the city of Milwaukee, which if you didn't know, is our biggest local in our district, 650 plus members. And they were out 26 years prior to anything happening in 2011 or 10. And they came in. We were able to actually negotiate a deal to bring them back in the state association because we are all stronger together. We also started a statewide PAC. I cut my salary and we cut a lot and trimmed a lot of the fat at the top. We gave $1 per member per month back to the locals. And in turn, they assessed themselves $1 per member per month because they believed in the mission and where we were going. We now have a state PAC that brings in $2 per member per month that we not only use for statewide elected races, but it's money that we can give back to our locals for local, county, and referendum races, for our locals that do not have the resources or at times the know-how and knowing how to play in those races. We also started a political action team that split up, essentially a strike team that can go and be dispatched to our locals at any given moment to help our locals when it comes to those races. Matter of fact, in the last election cycle, we actually won 2 referendum races. One local of about 35 in size was able to add 8 or 9 actually firefighter paramedics. And one local about 23 in size was able to add 7 more paramedic and firefighter positions on top of what they currently had. And that's only because of political action, us at the state being able to give them the resources, as well as the boots on the ground to get those referendums pushed through. We also have a statewide educational conference. It's essentially an educational, leadership, and legislative conference. When I was president in 2011, we had about 30 to 40 members that would come. So I went back to our locals and I asked the question, why? They said simply, Mahlon, we cannot afford it. It was $300 a pop. So again, we came back to the executive board. I've talked with our team and said, how can we make it more affordable? We not only made it more affordable, we actually made it free for 2 members from each one of our 60 plus locals to be able to come to get the education they need to go back home and take care of our members back on the front lines. We started a charitable foundation. I truly believe that our success for the future as firefighters and paramedics is going to depend on how we are out in our communities. And we need to see our communities outside of the emergency. In 2013, I put a working plan together where we actually looked at starting a charitable foundation. We now have a charitable foundation that has close to $1 million in assets in it and 2 full-time employees at the state office. Speaking of the state office, we bought a building. So we are financially sound, not just for now and not just while I'm here or our board's here, but for the foreseeable future for many, many years and decades to come. And I say all these things not to pat myself on the back or just to give you a list of accomplishments to say, okay, now vote for me because I did A, B, and C. I say it because this is what we can do when we work together as a united firefighters. I'm not saying that we're better than any of your provincial associations because we are not. And I'm not saying that we are perfect because we are not. I am not perfect either. No doubt about that. But us working together, us working as united firefighters, that, my friends, that's perfect. And we did it with a very simple but yet complex question. We came together as a team, elected by the members. We put together a retreat to look at what we all look at, our SWOT-C analysis, right? Our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, and constraints. But before we looked at that and reimagined our union, we asked one simple question. And the question is, what if every decision that we made, if every decision that we talked about was about the members? If every decision that we made at the table was a member-oriented decision? That seems like a simple question, but yet it's quite complex to actually carry out. But that's what we do here in Wisconsin. And I want to bring that same tenacity to the IAFF as your general president. We are living in troubled times. We are divided as a union. This is the most important election of our lifetime in the IAFF. We have not had a contested election since 1988 in the general president's office. So we have a lot of things to look at. We have a big decision to make by way of our voting. And I believe we have to get it right. And I want to be your general president, not just for now, but for the foreseeable future, to bring us in to decades of leadership. And right now, what we need is a leader, not a savior for our great union. So why am I running? And I want to talk a little bit before we get into questions about policies and platforms and initiatives that I want to champion as your president. If you go to my website at mitchellforiff.com, you will see these policy initiatives. And I'll tell you, the first one you're going to see is collective bargaining. I believe that every IAFF member, every local, should have the ability to sit down with their employer and talk about hours, wages, and working conditions. And I also believe that those that have collective bargaining rights right now, like we do, and like most of us on the line do, we should be the ones championing that effort for our brothers and sisters that do not have it. Because right now we're living under two IAFFs almost. We have those that have collective bargaining and those that don't. We need to change the conversation and change the dialogue. And I believe us leading that charge as firefighters and paramedics that actually have collective bargaining rights, we are the ones that need to champion that effort. Working with the incoming president here in the States, Joe Biden. I already have a great working relationship with President-elect Joe Biden. Kamala Harris, our next vice president here in the US, is a friend of mine. I've known her since she was Attorney General in California. She actually endorsed my campaign in 2018. And I don't say these things or to name drop. I say them because the next general president needs to have a relationship with the incoming administration here in the US for all of us to be able to get things done. Speaking of getting things done, cancer prevention. I said a little bit earlier, when we're losing more members sometimes because of occupational cancer and because of cancer, we need to do everything we can in our power as a union and as members to make sure that doesn't happen. I've had 2 members in the last probably 3.5 months that have come to me and said, Mahlon, I have cancer. 2 members. These members are not worried about coming back to the job. They're worried about being alive in the next 1.5 years. And I know that's not just happening in Wisconsin, it's happening all across the 2 great countries that we serve. So we need to do everything in our power when it comes to actually stacking a meeting, like we did it with NFPA 1710 in Anaheim, California. When it came to looking at time to task analysis, how many members and how many firefighters do we need on location to perform our jobs adequately? 3, 4, or 5, or 6 on a rig. Low, medium to high hazards. How many people do we need to make us safe so that we can in turn make our communities safe? The IAFF was the catalyst in raising those consensus standards to make our members more safe. We need to do the same thing when it comes to firefighting and when it comes to cancer. Our gear, PPE, and our equipment, having gear that actually has retardants on it, that when it gets wet, it permeates through our gear and permeates through our skin, giving our members cancer, our PPE, giving us cancer. Those are all things that we should be leading the charge in, and I will do as your general president. Speaking of making our members safe, the Center of Excellence on the East Coast is a great resource. We need to make sure and work like hell that we open the Center of Excellence in California, Riverside County, and you have my guarantee that I will make sure that we will work with the current partners and the current therapy and treatment partners that you have existing in Canada to make sure that we open up the Center of Excellence in Canada. This is something that we need to do. working with the workers' comp boards and running the COE program in Canada and using the same principles that we use here in the States to make sure that we are getting to our members before it is too late. I will also make sure, and you guys, you've done a great job with your Prime Minister in making sure that you're getting research when it comes to PTSD and PTSI in Canada. I'm going to make sure that we have the same in our states, that we get legislation that actually provides and makes workers' comp pay for the treatment and mental health treatment that our brothers and sisters need. Because we know it's not necessarily always PTSI or PTSD. A lot of times it's alcoholism, it's drug use, it's depression and anxiety and things that we see because of our members out there on the front lines. And a lot of times it's a cumulative effect. It's not just one instance or one call that we go on. So I will make sure that we get the Center of Excellence open in Canada. If it were up to me, we would have a Center of Excellence in every state and every province. Obviously, that's not feasible. Here at my local, I was able to start our peer support team. And it's been successful using retired members actually to help our members that are currently active duty on the job. And I will use that same veracity to make sure that we do the same thing across our two great countries that we serve. When we're losing members, and both suck, right? When we're losing members, more members from the one to take their own lives, as opposed to in a line of duty. That's an issue that we all have to get in front of. And I believe the IAFF should be leading that charge, and I will as your general president. I know you have many EMS issues, and I know they're different for each province. But I can tell you one thing I would do as your general president when it comes to communication centers, when it comes to unions like CUPE that are looking at not allowing any fire-based EMS or not allowing EMS to actually come to our members. We will fight back and push back like hell. I know they're a powerful lobbying entity, but we're powerful as well. But when it comes to EMS issues in each province, and again, I know each province is different and has their own, presents their own challenges. I will make sure that we have a national strategy that will use our EMS assistance and a heightened EMS assistance in our EMS department at the IAFF to make sure that you have the tools, that you have the resources to fight back, even against sometimes other unions that are trying to take our jobs and our employment away. I will make sure that attacks on labor rights and attacks on anti-labor legislation, we see it all across our two great countries. Act 10, which essentially took and curtailed collective bargaining for public sector employees here in Wisconsin. I know that you're seeing a lot of anti-labor and anti-workers' rights legislation in your country, and attacks on arbitration systems. These attacks are not going to stop. Matter of fact, I believe they're going to be even greater because of COVID-19. Municipalities, provinces, states, we're all crying, a lot of them bloody murder, that there's no money to pay for public safety before COVID-19 even hit. I will make sure that we use the strategic campaigns and ensure our effectiveness when it comes to our strategy, when it comes to social media, so that we're not waiting back. A lot of times we wait back and wait for the punch, and then we're playing defense. I'm going to make sure that we're actually playing offense. And we play offense, we make the first punch by having our governmental affairs department make sure that we're shoring up our governmental affairs department in Ottawa, make sure that we have enough assistance here in the States, and make sure that by way of our messaging and our strategy, that we are making the first punch. And we can do that. Because there are going to be attacks. There's going to be more threats to our pensions. And they always find a way to threaten us. They're going to say, you know what? If the firefighters didn't have these great pensions, then we could pay for more essential services. If the firefighters didn't have this exorbitant pension that we have now, it's our problem. That we paid our portion into the pension systems. And provinces and municipalities took holidays or didn't pay in when times were okay. Now the burden is ours to bear as employees and as firefighters because they didn't pay their portion in, or because they see an opportunity to go back retroactively like they are in Quebec and saying, hey, we're going to come after your pension. These are things that we need to fight, but these are things that we should not be fighting alone. These are things that the IAFF should be having our backs in. And I will guarantee you, I've done it here in Wisconsin. I will guarantee you will have that in those resources in Canada when the fights come, and they've already happened. So those are some of the things that I would do long-term. Some of the things that I would do within my first 30 days on a job if I'm fortunate enough to be your general president. First and foremost, we're going to actually convene a retreat. And at that retreat, we're going to look at accountability and transparency at the top of the IAFF. and actually make some of the reforms that we need to make our union sustainable for not just now, but for the foreseeable future. And I will work with all 16 district vice presidents to do that at the retreat. So first and foremost, we're gonna go over every contract that the IAFF is currently in. And those contracts that have no benefit to our members will be exhausted or getting rid of. I'm also gonna meet with every top level staff as well as the assistant to the general president. We're gonna streamline things like MFAs and GIS mapping studies, things that we can use back at home. Right now, we get probably in my local 4 to 5 GIS studies and probably 3 or 4 MFAs a year because of our locals and our affiliates. Sometimes we have to wait 4 to 6 weeks. So we need to streamline these things and make sure that we're giving more efforts to what we need back at home in our provinces and our locals and our municipalities. I'm going to also look at the 3 pension systems at the IAFF. It's something that's been written in the New York Times, written in the Washington Post, and all these stupid blogs. And I know that there's already been work done on this. So I don't want to sit here and act like this is all brand new. But what is new is that in leadership, we have to take, and when we take a comprehensive audit, which I will do of all 3 pension plans, I'm going to release those findings to you, the membership, not to these damn blogs, not to the Washington Post, or not to New York Times, because they don't give a crap about us. It's going to go to you, the membership, and the leaders of this great union. And we're going to fix it. We're going to come with a plan to actually fix the problem, not just put it out there for everyone to see and have no solutions. I'm going to do the same thing with our annual budget. Right now, the IAFF annual budget is about $75 million. $54 million of that is made up by per cap. So if you will, there's a $20 million sweet spot. I'm going to make sure that we do a compliance audit. And again, release those findings to the local and state and provincial leaders and let you know, here's what we're dealing with, and here's how we're going to fix it as an executive board. We have many talented members on that executive board. We have some of them on the call right now. I'm going to work with the district vice presidents to get the things done that we need to get done when it comes to accountability and transparency within the IAFF at the higher levels. I'm going to also review our endorsement process. And I can tell you here in the States, 4 years ago, we did a pre-primary poll and a post-primary poll. They ended up not endorsing Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton. And then 4 years later, when Joe Biden announced, we endorsed him a day and a half or 2 days later. So a lot of our members are wondering what gives. Now, just full transparency, I am in complete agreement with the Joe Biden endorsement because of what he's done over time to help firefighters and how he's voted on our paycheck. I'm not talking about all the social issues and everything else. I'm talking about firefighters, our families, our wages, our working conditions. Joe Biden's been there every step of the way, so I was for that. But what we need is a transparent process. So what I will do for US as well as Canada when it comes to voting on a prime minister, I will make sure that we have a poll that comes from the IAFF through our district vice presidents back to state, provincial, and local officers. And our members that want to be part of that polling, they will be if they so choose. That polling will come back via the local and state provincial officers to the IAFF district vice president, and then we will make a more informed decision. Now, I realize that we're not going to be able to interview all 324,000 members. There's no way that we're going to be able to do that. And I also realize, I'm not naive to the fact that we're not going to make every member happy. I mean, I've said it before and I'll say it again. We could endorse Jesus Christ himself. And a lot of our members would say, you know what, we shouldn't be involved in religion, or I'm with Pontius Pilate, or I'm with Caesar. You get my drift. But our members should know what the process is. It should be clear and transparent. And if they want to be a part of it, they should be. I will make sure as well that we do a SWOT-C analysis, and that as with the district vice presidents, we review and reimagine our union in a different way. And we will do this every 5 years, and we'll re-up it every 5 years. And you, the members, will also have an ability to be part of the strategic plan of the IAFF going forward. Last but not least, I will also make sure that when it comes to any hiring of the general president may hire, or GST, that we make a recommendation of those hires. The vetting process will be done by the IAFF executive board and the district vice presidents. And they will vet every individual that we want to hire. And they will make the final determination on who we hire. And I believe that brings more power and influence back to the membership because those are our elected members at that district, at the district vice president level. I also believe it's another set of eyes so that we don't have a COO that doesn't care about our members or that is anti-union, just relatively speaking. So those are the things that I would do short-term as well as long-term within our union. We have many challenges ahead of us, brothers and sisters. A lot of people ask me, so I'll just say it, our path to victory. Our path to victory is strong. At any given IAFF election, there's about 305,000 votes out there. By the way, votes that we have currently locked up, and when I say locked up, I mean by way of endorsements, that Brother Kelly, as well as I have, there are still 160,000 votes out there. This is definitely a sprint, not necessarily a marathon. But if you go on my webpage, if you go on my social media sites, we are getting 2 to 3 endorsements a day. We've been endorsed by the largest local within the IAFF, and we've been endorsed by some of the smallest locals in the IAFF, a lot of them right here in my state, locals of 5 in size as well. So there's a path to victory. And I've been endorsed by as far as the East Coast as Washington, D.C., many locals in Canada, and as far as West Coast as California, Hawaii, New Mexico, as Brian said, all of Arizona has endorsement except for one local. Brian, I hope you're working on that. But we have had a lot of endorsements, and this is going to be a close race. So I'm asking you to join me in uniting, to defeating what's dividing us. I'm asking you to join me, not in taking back our union, because we do not need to take back our union. This is our union, and it's our union to make bigger, better, and stronger. And in my opinion, we only do that together as a united IAFF. We do not all have to agree, and we shouldn't, but we need to know where the hell we're going. And we need a leader for that, not a savior. So now's the time, brothers and sisters, for us to look at and reimagine our union and ask that simple question: what kind of union would we be if everything we did at that table, if every decision we made was about the members, and it was about the women and men that are working on the street right now as we're on this Zoom call? And I see a lot of you are working today. But what if every decision we made was about the members? So with that, brother, and with that, Taylor, I can stop talking because I know there'll be a lot of questions, and I will leave time.
Now you can go.
And I'm going to answer your questions that you may have. So I thank you all for your time, and thank you for joining this Zoom call. And I can take any questions, Taylor.
All right, perfect. So before we get started into questions, let me just go over how we're going to do these. So we're going to be using the raised hand feature, and that's located on the bottom bar of your screen under the participants button. Please click that and we will answer the questions in the order they are received. We will be unmuting participants once we call on them. If that does not work or you prefer to not do that, please just ask a question in the chat. We will answer all the questions that we get. We'll stay on until every single question is answered to make sure that everyone gets to hear from Mahlon. If for some reason you think of a question after the Zoom event or you don't want to ask it right now, please just email Mahlon at mitchell@iaff.com and we will get your questions answered. If someone asked a question that you were going to ask and you were satisfied with the answer, please lower your hand so we can get to more questions. And then on that note, if we see the same question asked in the chat more than once, we'll probably move on to the next question. But again, if for any reason you don't get your question answered, please just email Mahlon at mitchell@iaff.com so we can go ahead and get your question answered. So as folks are thinking of their questions real quick, I just want to run through that we will be sending a follow-up email to everyone who joined the event tonight with more information, as well as a recap of what you heard here tonight. If you liked what Mahlon had to say and you liked what the questions that you got answered, we need your help. The more calls that you make to other members in your local or to other locals in your region, the more that our message gets out. So we would really appreciate all the help that you can provide. Also, please follow us on social media. Those links are in the chat. That's facebook.com/Mahlon Mitchell, as well as Twitter and Instagram. And continue to follow us and continue to share so that we can continue to build the campaign for a united IAFF. So let's go ahead and start with the first question. And this is from Fred LeBlanc.
I think you're muted there, DVP LeBlanc.
There we go. How about that?
Yes, sir.
Hear ya.
All right, you got me now? All right, perfect. Well, Mahlon, to you and your team, thank you so much for joining us here in virtual Canada, I'll call it. Appreciate the town hall opportunity and experience for my district and certainly districts 15 and 6 and my fellow Canadian brothers and sisters. You've touched on a lot of great issues tonight in your address. I was chairing the Occupational Health and Safety Committee for the convention this afternoon, and you certainly touched on a number of points that must be relevant to the members today, because certainly resolutions that were before us talked about our PPE and the cancer-causing agents that may be present in our PPE, the needs for additional center of excellence and mental behavioral health issues. I was also listening into the committee prior to mine, the Legislative and Political Action Committee, which talked about the endorsement process. So you're certainly in tune with what the locals are bringing to this convention. And I appreciate those comments. I appreciate you making a Canadian-specific IAFF town hall. And the reason I say that is, you know, having 8 years on this board now, what I have learned is we are one IAFF. We are, you know, at least 2 countries, I'll say, we've got a few outside of the continental North America, but, you know, two great countries under one IAFF. But in 16 districts, it's like 16 square pegs fitting into a square hole sometimes. And, you know, where I'm going with that is our policy direction, everything that we do, our program direction at the IAFF has to be done in concert and has to be done together as a board. That's the only way we do it right. And so I was certainly enjoyed your comments tonight. Welcome the comments about the teamwork and you know, the strategic sessions you talked about. So I just wanted to add those comments as you kick off and start listening to some of the specific questions for your candidacy. But I just wanted to say welcome to the Canadian Town Hall and virtual Canada, and give you my comments, my perspective on, you know, how we are working at the IAFF right now and the need to continue to work as a team and why that is. You know, I have my specific issues in District 13, but so does the 5th or the 15th and the 6th just in Canada, and now parlay that across the border and into the US. And you can understand how it can be challenging for a board to come together to meet everybody's needs. But I think we've done a pretty good job up to this point, and I'm looking forward to you know, carrying the ball further down the field. So with that, I'll turn it over to the questions our members may have. But again, thank you very much, Mahlon, for putting this on. I appreciate it.
Thank you, brother. And Taylor, I think DVP Mike Carter is on the line if he wants to say a couple words, or if not, that's fine. Just want to make sure that I yield to our DVPs. I don't see him on, but I know he was going to possibly be on. But
No,
Yeah.
I am here. Thanks, Mahlon. I had a couple issues just with the link that I received. So, yeah, you know what, the IAFF being united and moving forward as a group is extremely important. And I think that there's been some distinct challenges. I've only been on the board a couple of years, and those challenges have been highlighted over those 2 years. And I think the decisions that are made in this election are going to be paramount to where we go from here. And I think that everyone needs to make sure that they're looking at all the facts from all the different circumstances to make an educated choice on what they're going to do moving forward. So I encourage everyone to continue to do that and continue to focus on what's best for our members, because I know the executive board and myself and my fellow DVPs focus on the membership now. So that's what we want to continue to do in the future. So thank you.
yes, sir. And I don't know if DVP Burry's on, but if he is, going once, going twice.
Let's see. I don't see him right now.
Okay.
But if he hops on, we will allow him the time. Thank you both, DVP Carter and LeBlanc, for those words. Let's hop right into our first set of questions, and this is from Greg Horton.
Am I on?
You're unmuted, sir. Yep.
Awesome. First of all, Mahlon, thank you very much for taking the time to meet with us today. It's been several weeks since we've spoken. On behalf of the OPFFA, who, as you know, have the executive board has endorsed you, I feel very comfortable tonight speaking on behalf of our board that we've made the right decision Clearly, you've taken the time to get educated on the issues that are, we in Canada face that are unique to us. And you're speaking about real issues that will make a real difference in our members' lives. So thank you for that. And thank you for stepping forward. And I do believe in your comment that we don't need a savior, we need leadership. And clearly your issues, in my mind, and on behalf of the board, speak to that. So just wanted to offer our thanks, our support. The OPFFA Executive Board stands with you.
Thank you, brother. These are actually really nice questions. You guys are nicer in Canada, I tell you that.
All right, so folks, keep in mind just to do the raise hand feature as well. And if you have questions, throw them in the chat. At the moment, we don't have any on the Zoom. So we did get one submitted this afternoon via email, and this is from Paul Horton. Will you be doing a review of our political action in relation to supporting any level or position of government? It has caused great divide. Thanks. Paul Horton, local 2511 out of Central York, District 13.
Yeah, and I touched on that briefly in my comments. It does divide. There's no escaping from it. It divides our union every time we have a presidential election, no matter who we endorse. And I'm sure it's the same, and I know I've heard it's the same at times when you have a prime minister election. So I will, like I said, I'm going to work with the DVPs if I'm your general president to make sure that we have a standardized polling system, that we can get the will of the membership, right? But there's no way of us, again, talking to all 324,000 members. And we're always going to have members that do not like who we endorse. That's always going to happen. I don't care if you talk to every member. If you endorse someone, there's going to be 30, 40, sometimes 50% that don't like that endorsement. But our job as leaders and as elected leaders, and I know I'm preaching to the choir here on this call, but our job as elected leaders is to lead and do that. And we have to at times make decisions that our members don't quite understand at times. But I also believe that we can do a better job as leaders rolling out the reasons as to why we endorse a certain top level candidate. I think the rub or the trepidation comes when it comes to like a prime minister or a presidential candidate, because really for the most part, at the provincial level and the local level, those are really driven by the locals or the provincial associations. But when it comes to a prime minister or a presidential election, those are driven by the executive board, who some do better than others in talking to their members about it. But at the time, we have to look at it in its totality as to what's best for our members. And when I say that, it's about hours, wages, working conditions, and our health and safety. It's not about the gays, guns, and God, and all the 3Gs and all the other social issues that, yes, are there. We live in a country. So yes, they're there, and we have our own personal feelings for those issues. And everyone has the right to feel the way they want. But as a union, the reasons why we endorse a top-level candidate or a top-level presidential or prime minister candidate is and has been because of how they are for our paycheck. I always tell our members, you can lobby your hobby, but vote your paycheck. And we have many conservative members here in Wisconsin as well, many, like a lot. And sometimes they don't quite agree with me or understand how we endorse a candidate. But I tell them, like, all I can do is give them the information and provide why our state association or why the IAFF endorse a certain candidate, and they can vote for who they want. And they should not be castrated or marginalized because of that. But we do need to educate our members on why we endorse a certain candidate. So I will make sure that we continue to do that, make sure that we have a more enhanced approach at making sure our members understand that, but also putting each candidate side by side and saying, here are the issues, and this is why we're endorsing a certain candidate. And that's not a new concept. I know the IAFF does that, but I think we just need to keep hammering that home. And I think we do that with our district vice presidents.
All right, and now we're going to kick it back to District Vice President Carter.
Thanks. So Mahlon, when you talk about polling the 320, are you talking about polling all the membership and trying to educate them to get their feedback? Or are you talking about the affiliate leaders or through the DVPs, or what's your actual plan for that?
I'm talking about having a standardized poll. We use it actually here in Wisconsin a lot. A poll that's simple, that allows, it's the DVPs taking it back home, working with state, provincial, and local officers. And for the members that actually want to be part of a poll and having a baseline poll, 3 or 4 questions, that's simple, that they can actually be a part of, and taking those findings back from local state officers via the DVPs back to the International Executive Board, and us looking at that polling together as a International Executive Board, and then still making a decision whether we endorse a candidate or not, whether we endorse candidate A or B, or we stay out of it. But having that having that polling in front of us before we make that decision. And I'm not saying we're not going to be able to poll all 324,000 members, but having our members have more of a say. And when I say more of a say, us knowing where a lot of our members are standing.
Thank you.
All right, now we have another question. This is going to be coming from Jim Lee.
Hi, Mahlon.
Hey, Jim, long time no see.
Yeah, that's true. Mahlon, I just want to make a quick comment about your idea of vetting the senior staff, the executive board. And, you know, when I first heard that, I had some concerns, but having been an assistant to the general president, having been the chief of operations, and having been the chief of staff, all 3 senior positions within the IAFF staff, I think your idea is good. I think it would help to be able to speak to the 16 district vice presidents before you take the job, basically. And, you know, the person being asked to take the job just has as much right as to say no, and the people that are going to hire them. And like I said, I appreciate that thought, and I just want to say good luck in the race. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. And I know that that's going to create it's going to slow down the process, or as you guys would say, the process. I know it's going to slow that down. But I also know that I believe that it's going to yield a better result. Because there should be more than one set of eyes looking at top level positions at the IAFF. I mean, they're important, as you know better than a lot of us on this call, Jim. But they're important, and who's representing us at the highest levels, and where our monies are going by way of our per cap by paying salaries. That should be vetted by the district vice presidents. And that in turn, when you're doing that, it's giving more power and influence and back to the membership, because those are our elected representatives. So I believe our membership should be able to look at who we're hiring at the top level. I don't think it's that far-fetched of an idea. I do it here, and I realize Wisconsin's a very small microcosm of the bigger IAFF, but we do it here. And when we hire, and we don't do a lot of hiring here, but our executive board gets to talk to them, ask them questions. And a lot of times there's no conflict or problem, but at least, you know, our board has a say. The board is our elected representatives. They should have more power and influence when it comes to decision-making process at the IAFF.
All right, and we're going to kick it back over to DVP LeBlanc as well.
There, can you hear me now?
Yep. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
perfect. So Mahlon, you know, you've been doing this campaign probably predominantly virtually. You know, these types of meetings, zooming in with locals and I'm sure state and provincials or what have you out there. And, you know, we've been forced into this virtual world, if you will. And I think there's certainly some pluses and minuses. And there's some thoughts out there that the IAFF should embrace this going forward for some of our events, including the convention. You know, we're having this emergency one because of the emergency. And it's a virtual convention. I get that. It's going to be interesting to see how it unfolds. I've been involved in 2, maybe 3, 4 different virtual convention / educational seminars now that have occurred in my district. And I'll say there's some pluses and minuses. Certainly the minuses is the face-to-face networking, getting together and, with individuals in the same room and opening up those conversations happens, I think, far more in person than it does over a computer screen. But I do see the advantages that this can bring as well. I was just wondering if you had any thoughts on how far we should embrace this technology within the IAFF and what kind of limits you think should be there for us as an organization as well.
Yeah, that's a great question. If there's one thing, and I don't know if this is even the right way to say it, but for lack of a better term, if there's one thing that's been good, not even good, but has enhanced our ability to communicate because of COVID, is we all realize how to work remotely now and do a lot more virtually. My opinion, there's nothing at all that compares or can replace in-person interaction and in-person meeting. Because as we all know, when you're at a convention, it's not, or alts or ledge conference, it's not just what happens on the convention floor. You actually a lot of times get a lot more networking and education and things done off the floor. And I'm not just talking about drinking and everything else, but talking about actually interacting with our members in caucus meetings, interacting with locals of similar size, and those are smaller and bigger, and learning and seeing the different challenges that we're all facing. And when you go to these, as we all know, is that you realize like the issues are different, but they're quite similar. And there's always somebody else, for the most part, going through something else that you are currently going through. So I would look at like a hybrid, and meaning that if I were general president, I would use these mediums a lot more. I would make sure that, and we had our first town hall was a town hall of locals of 100 and under in size, emerging locals. And I told them, and I'll tell you the same thing, I will do these meetings quarterly, and I will break them up so that we don't have, 200-300 people on if I'm your general president, so that we can have a smaller population and smaller members, a smaller way of people on the call, so that people do feel comfortable in asking questions. And it won't be a Zoom where I just come on and do a quick spiel and then just get off. I actually will take all the questions from our members. I did it here in Wisconsin, but we didn't do Zoom. We have 5 caucuses in Wisconsin. And when I became president, one thing that I made sure of is that now the state president and the state secretary treasurer and our board members would always go to the caucus meetings and talk to local leadership. But there you're only talking, again, to local leadership. We have to get back into the stations, and not just photo ops, but actually back in the stations, actually back in local and general membership meetings, and actually talking to our members and going where they are, as opposed to them having to come to where we are at an alts or legislative conference. So I will do more of that. And this is a great medium to do that, to be able to reach out. I mean, right now I'm in Canada, for Christ's sake. So it's amazing to me. And I believe that we need to utilize these tools, and I'm sure they're only going to get enhanced as time goes on. But I still want to have in-person meetings. I like to make those in-person meetings a lot more reasonably inexpensive. So our members can more members can actually attend. But I want to do more in-person or more virtual meetings like this. And I will do it as your general president. And I believe that we need to do it and be on the horn all the time. Now you have a job to do in DC as general president, but these don't take very much time. And the benefit I think you get from that is reaching out to a lot of members in a small segment of time. So I would do like a hybrid DVP LeBlanc.
All right, so at the moment, it looks like we don't have any more questions, so I'm going to give folks a minute to think of some things that they want to ask Mahlon. But in the meantime, I'm just going to run through a couple things. So like I said, we will be sending out a recap email that will also have, we'll give you the ability to ask for the recording of this event. So if you want to take that recording forward it to other folks in your local and your region. We encourage you to do so. I also would like to thank the locals who did send out a few tweets just now saying that they're on with us for this town hall. That's exactly the type of participation that we're looking for. So thank you so much. I also, real quick, a lot of folks have been asking how the campaign is funded and how we're getting the job done of getting Mahlon in front of all of the members like yourselves. And the answer, it's a lot of work, but it also takes resources to communicate with membership spread out from British Columbia all the way to South Florida and everywhere in between. We're relying on individual contributions from members to power this campaign. We hope to count on you to be part of what we're building to unify and continue to strengthen this IAFF. Just go to mitchellforiaff.ca and click the donate button. Your contribution will ensure that we're able to continue to have Zoom calls like this and that we're able to communicate with every member in our union so that they can hear Mahlon's message, get a sense of his experience and leadership, and join our effort to a more unified and united IAFF.
I think Mark Mark, did you have something? Mark McKinnon, I see him on that. At least I can see your face. I thought you raised your hand, but.
Yeah, I tried to raise my hand. I tried to raise my hand, but couldn't figure out how to do that.
I saw it.
But no, I was just gonna raise a question about fundraising, and as I posted my question, your team covered it. So I think it's important that people realize that while you're doing Zoom meetings like this and it's virtual, that there's still an expense and you still have costs to cover, and we can't just assume that because everything's virtual, that it's not a cheap campaign to run. So I was just going to make that statement, but your team has covered it.
Perfect. And thank you, Mark. We have a couple questions in the chat here. This one is from Ben Temple. What is your strategy to support the voice of small, less than 20 members, locals who can sometimes lack the influence of larger locals and face their own unique challenges?
Well, brother, my first Zoom was actually for locals of 100 and under in size. And here in Wisconsin, about 93% of our locals are 93 to 95% of our locals are 100 and less in size. So the things I mentioned earlier, and setting up a statewide PAC and making sure our educational conference is actually affordable. Actually, it's free now. Making sure that our locals that don't have a lot of times the resources to start their own 501c3 or at times don't see the need to do that. Us educating them on that fact and having an executive director, and I'm the chairperson of our Charitable Foundation, but I can dispatch him to go out and actually work with locals. And we do it from start to finish for them starting their own C3. And we actually also will provide them seed money to do that. And show them how to do dues and deduction for our Charitable Foundation and everything else. We have an aid grant program here in the state. And our aid grant program essentially provides a loan, an interest-free loan to locals that have no money because of the different fights they have. And our elected officials in the state, knowing that they have the backing of the state association, Professional Firefighters Wisconsin in this case, makes them think twice a lot of times because we will back our local up. And when it comes to statewide issues, we ask them not to pay back a dime because it's going to affect all of us essentially. So those are some of the things that I've done here and we've done as a team here in Wisconsin when it comes to helping out really locals of all sizes, but I would say our locals of 100 and under utilize those tools more. One thing that we started here, I started probably 7-8 years ago, is that if you come to our educational conference in the state, you can then apply for a scholarship to go to IAFF Alts. And we'll pay for your hotel, your flight, as well as your registration fee. We've had probably 7 or 8 locals, probably actually 9 locals take advantage of that, and we haven't denied 1 local yet. And those are all the things that we did here because our locals are small in size, but they have a voice, and they have a voice that needs to be heard. And we're all in this together. We are all, if we don't realize that we're all in this together and that we need to reimagine our union, then it will lead to our peril. And it's not a doomsday speech or approach, it's just the reality of it. I've seen it. You look at Wisconsin. In 2010, AFSCME, which is a big union, and as you all know, a big union here in our state, in the States. AFSCME had 63,000 members in Wisconsin, 63,000. Now, because of what Scott Walker did to them, they have about 8,000 to 9,000 members statewide. 8,000 to 9,000, and 63,000 members. And all because of one fell swoop of the pen and them not really changing or reimagining their union and just going about the same old, same old. A governor came along, said, you know, I'm going to break up the unions, and he did just that. We are a right to work state in Wisconsin. AFSCME was started in Wisconsin in 1932. So we're at a place in the IAFF, I think we're at a critical time. And we talked about some of the issues that are going to be confronting us. And we need a leader that has experience and the know-how to actually navigate us through a lot of those challenges that are going to be in front of us. So big union or small union, I've already proven, I believe, and have talked about how I will help unions are smaller in size, but it's about us working together, making sure that we all have a seat at the table, make sure that we're all there. Because my mom always said, actually, either you go to dinner, either you're at the table or you're on the menu. And you don't want to be on the menu. You want to be at the table. And that's every local needs to be at the table. And I'll make sure that happens as your general president.
All right, let's move on to our next question. This is from Malcolm Todd, Local 162. Did I hear you mention that the general president position was last contested in 1988? I'm proud to be a union leader and part of the IAFF, but I find that astounding. In 1988, Reagan was still in power in the US, Mulroney in Canada. The Soviet Union was still in existence. What do you think this lack of competition for the top job says about the organization? Do you think it is healthy and best serves the membership?
Well, in 1988, I was 11 years old. So I'll tell you this, competition is healthy. I've been asked the question, I think this is where you're getting at, but maybe not. I've been asked the question, should there be term limits at the top levels of the IAFF or in any position in the IAFF? And my answer to that, and not that you're asking that question, but this is, I think, where you're going. Not, I apologize. But I have been asked that question, I think, on every Zoom about term limits for DVPs as well as principal officers. And I am going to agree. I believe that if you haven't done in a general president spot or secretary treasurer, principal officer spot, if you haven't done anything, all the things I just said to you and laid in front of you by way of policy or platforms, if I have not gotten any of that done in 10 years, let's say, then I'm probably not going to get it done in 20 years. So I believe that we could work on a term limit plan just for principal officers. And the reason I say that is because, like you just said, there's a disconnect, and I hope to bridge that gap, but there's a disconnect between our members and local officers even, and their general president and a GST. I don't believe there's a disconnect necessarily between the members and local officers and their DVP, because you lean on them, you talk to them hopefully on a regular basis. And if you don't talk to them, that means hopefully you're not having a lot of issues or a lot of problems, or you can take care of what's in front of you. So I don't believe in term limits for district vice presidents because you're talking with them on a day-to-day basis or monthly or weekly, and you should see them more because they're in your districts. But as far as 10 years, so I would say if we're talking about a term limit, I would be open to a term limit for general president and GST of 12 years because we have 4-year increments. And I know that's not your question, brother, but I'm not trying to give you the old DC dip and twirl either, but I just wanted to broach that question because it's been asked a lot on our board meetings or our Zooms.
We have another question from DVP Carter. How does Mahlon envision the work at the Canadian office? Same changes, and if changes, what would those look like?
On Ottawa, I would enhance what's currently happening. I think we need more resources, and I told the federal locals this as well. I think we need to reconfigure and reconstruct the way we do business. And one of the issues that I would look at strongly in working with our DVPs in the 3 districts in Canada is making sure that you have more resources. I believe that we need more of our materials, our tools and resources in French. And if you go to my website, actually you can see that you can go to my website and you can read it in English, or you can read it actually in French. And we did that because there are French only speaking. I know it's not French, but I'm saying it wrong, but there are French only speaking members that we have. They should have the resources and the tools necessary to do their jobs as well, without always asking the IAFF, hey, can we get this in our native tongue or our native language? And if you go to my website, you'll see that. So I believe that we need to enhance, and working with the DVPs, I'm going to ask them what they need. I'm going to ask you, DVP Carter and DVP LeBlanc and DVP Burry, what you need. And we're going to provide the resources that you need. I'm not sitting here acting like I know everything about Canada, because I don't. But I'm a sympathetic ear, and I'm going to learn. And I'm going to make sure that as your general president, I have a firm hold on what we need in Canada. But that all goes through the district vice president. And that's the way it's set up, because those are your elected representatives. And I'm going to work with them to make sure that you have every resource when it comes to some of the issues we talked about, EMS issues, when it comes to province to province. Everyone's unique and different. When it comes to anti-labor legislation and taking away grievance and arbitration language and systems. When it comes to the Center of Excellence and where it's best suited. I know that work's already being done, but how we best suit our members when it comes to the legislation as well, that covers our members before it's too late. So all those things I'm going to work on with the DVPs. And that's why it's set up that way. So that my job is to make sure we get the resources. You can call any local president in Wisconsin, and I implore you to do this. Any local president in Wisconsin, I'm not going to give you one to call because you think I would have it set up. Call any local president in Wisconsin, and I'm not perfect by any means, but I am a servant leader. And what I mean, and sometimes I hate that word servant leadership because our chiefs use it all the time and they don't really believe it. But servant leadership means that I am there to actually serve you. I'm not going to DC and coming to Ottawa at times to be some big union boss. I'm coming to DC to work on your behalf and on behalf of the members. My job is to serve you. And that I say, and I implore you to call any local president in Wisconsin, because they will tell you, and we don't always agree on everything. Again, we're not perfect, but the members will say they have a listening ear. I don't try to act like I know everything, but I do serve them. And I truly believe in servant leadership. And I want to take that to the international.
All right, now we have a question from Ian McDonald. As a small local who has run a firefighter candidate in back-to-back provincial elections, the access to PAC dollars has been frustrating when it comes to Washington. Provincial regulations around funding limits aside, can access to PAC dollars be less complicated?
I can, and I will do it. I think we've had this conversation before, Brother Ian, but I will do everything in my power to make sure that, again, work on the DVPs, that we figure out the best way to get PAC dollars into Canada. And if it's that we set up different PAC funding and the way that we actually receive the dollars is different, whatever we have to do to make sure that you get the PAC dollars for elected officials, but also the PAC dollars and the fight back money and the strategic campaigning, that we can get that into Canada and do it obviously above board and legally. That's the most important. But legally being able to get the PAC dollars that we have in Canada, and maybe they stay in Canada. I don't believe that you should always have to send your money to Washington D.C. and that's for any local in our IAFF. Send all your money to Washington D.C. and then beg for it to come back to you. It's our job to make sure that we can cut through some of the bureaucracy and get it back to you in a manner. And I believe we need to be where the fight is. A lot of times, they'll say, okay, a small local, well, by way of PAC dollars or by way of per cap, they're costing us more money than some of the bigger locals. Well, that's fine, but that means the need is there and the need is great. So the IAFF should be where the need is, regardless of size or local or size of province or state.
All right, well, I'll give folks a minute to see if they have any more questions, if any comes to mind. Again, I'll just run through sort of our recap here. We will have a recap email that will come out after this. It will give you an opportunity to have the recording of the event. If you have any questions that you don't get answered throughout the course of the evening, please email mahlon@mitchell4iff.com. Additionally, if you're a local who has already endorsed the campaign and you want to get more involved, we have plenty of opportunities for you to do so in a volunteer capacity, and we would love your help in doing so. So please, if you're a local who's already endorsed, excuse me, please email taylor@mitchell4iff.com and we can get you plugged into everything that we're doing. Additionally, as Mark echoed earlier in the call, the campaign that we're running is member powered and member focused. While it is virtual, it does cost money to make sure that we're reaching out to all of the members, doing Zoom calls like this. So please, if you can, chip into the campaign so that we can keep these things going and unite the IAFF. At the time, it doesn't appear that we have any more questions. So Mahlon, I will kick it over to you for a sign off.
Thanks, Taylor, and thank you all. And I want to thank the DVPs that get on. And Mark and Jim Lee, thank you for all your years of service, and you're still serving, actually. So I don't want to put you off the pasture or anything, but thank you for all your years of service to the IAFF and making us stronger. And I just want to give it a sentiment that, you know, when it comes to political positions, we talked a little bit about politics and endorsements, but by way of your parliament and who you endorse and who you back, it's important when it comes to getting things done, when it comes to like you getting the vaccine, which now you guys have gotten accomplished, when it comes to flame retardants, things that we're working on here in the States, when it comes to actually earmarking money from your parliament, your 338, I believe, different parliamentary elected officials. All those things are important, and the IAFF should have your back in every instance. And I believe the IAFF does, but I believe I can only enhance that fact, and I can believe I can only support and help the local, state, and provincial officers that are serving you right now, and that you're serving, the members. So I believe that we have a very, very unique proposition in front of us, and that is that we get to determine who our next general president is for many, many years to come. And I take that very seriously. I joke around a lot. I know a lot of you on the call, and we've joked around and we've had a couple beers or 2 or 3 at our different conventions. But I take this job very seriously, and I take this IAFF very seriously, and the work that we do on behalf of our members very seriously. And there's a lot of things that we need to get accomplished, and we can accomplish those things. But again, I don't care if it's in Canada or in the US, we accomplish those things together as one united IAFF. President Shapeberger, as you all know, is retiring. I believe that he should be able to retire with some dignity. And I believe that we need a fresh start at the IAFF to get our union moving again and working together and back in the right direction for our members and the men and women who are on the street as we're sitting on this Zoom call. So with that, I will stop talking. I appreciate your time. And thank you for taking your afternoon and spending a small portion of it with me. If you have any questions, I want to give you my cell number. And my cell number, if you like to write it down, is 608-698-2333. 608-698-2333. And you can call me anytime. Try to recognize the time difference a little bit, but you can call me anytime. And ask me questions. And my number is not going to change. I've had that number for probably 26, 27 years. If you look at it, that's back in the old days when you could pick your own phone number. The 2333 is Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. That's their numbers if you guys are basketball fans. But anyway, thank you for your time. Call me anytime, email me. If you got more questions, please reach out to me, text. And I'd love to have your vote. I'd love to have your support. But if I don't get it and I'm your general president, I will guarantee you I'm going to work like hell for you. So thank you all for your time, and we can sign off. We'll see you all. Stay safe out there on the street.
Thank you.